Hello, everyone. This is Dr. B from Steps to the Future. Welcome you. Oh, excuse me. My mouth is not working today, guys. It's been a long day, but I love to welcome you to C3 with Dr. B. And today we're having a conversation with Kelly Carroll. Now, for those of you who know me, you know I love helping students think about what careers they may want in the future. I always ask my kids, like, what problems do you want to solve? Instead of like, what do you want to major in? What problems do you want to solve? We have so many things out there in the world that are major issues. So I try to get them to think about that. And I always tell my students, when you're visiting a campus, make sure you go by the Career Center. Find out what the career services are that are available to you. Some students do it, some don't, or they decide, well, why do I need it this early? I'm just going into my first year. But again, I think it's important. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring our guest with us this evening. I had the pleasure of meeting Kelly at a North Carolina Career Development Association conference. She was one of the presenters, and believe me, she is a dynamic presenter. So if you ever get an opportunity to see Kelly present anywhere, please jump on that bandwagon because you will love it. So we're going to take a short 10-second break and we are going to come back. And when we come back, Kelly will be with us. Here we go. Hey, welcome to C3 with Dr. B. Kelly. It is so great to see you here.
Thank you so much for having me. And that intro was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. You are one of those people that when you're in a room, you just light up the room with your energy, with your aura. People just want to like come over and talk to you and hear about whatever it is that you're talking about. And I know that's how I felt after, not just after, but during your presentation, because you were just so energized and just making sure you connected with everybody at the conference. And, so I said, I've got to remember to reach out to her and see if we can get her on as a guest. So again, thank you for being here. I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
so very much. That
Yeah.
actually really means a lot to me to hear that.
Oh,
So yes, thank you.
that's great. And folks, I'm just going to read a little short bio about Kelly, and then we're going to jump into our conversation. So Kelly is a seasoned career development professional with proven expertise in higher ed, training, and facilitation and early career programs. Currently, she serves as the Career Services Manager in the College of Information and Communications at the University of South Carolina. Yay! Where she supports the students in ensuring they are prepared for life after college, whatever that may be. She also sits on the board of the Career Thought Leaders Organization. Through her various roles, Kelly has had the opportunity to present on multiple topics to global audiences. In her free time, she enjoys cuddling with her dog, Tesla, reading, and spending time with friends. Again, welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
So, before we even get into your work at the University of South Carolina, tell me about you as a high school student and your process in applying to college and deciding what you wanted to do.
Ooh, yeah. So when I was a high school student, I was probably the student that everybody thought had it all together. And quite frankly, I did at that point, or I thought I did as well. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew where I wanted to go. I knew exactly the path that I wanted to take. But when it came time to apply for college, I kind of froze. And so my parents had to kind of force me to apply for a certain number of colleges. They made a deal with me. You apply for so many in-state colleges, you apply for my mother's there's a private school in Huntsville, Alabama that my mom went to first. It's a religious institution that was related to our church. So you apply there, you apply to one or two in-state schools, and then you can apply to one or two other places that you want to go. But I had to be pushed to do that because I kind of
Mm.
ironically, my mother is also a career development professional. So
Runs in the
I had
family.
it all together until I didn't. But it was a really interesting time for me.
Hmm.
And a really good lesson, I guess you could say, and
Mm.
trying to figure out and making the decision as to where I would go, weighing my different options. One of the schools that we were looking at was Elon University, and the school that I ultimately chose was Claflin University, which is here in South Carolina in Orangeburg. And there were a lot of conversations about which school we were going to choose, why we were going to choose it, which major, and all of those things. It's a lot that goes into that decision making, and that was a lot of lessons for me.
Yeah. And for people that aren't familiar with Claflin, Claflin is an HBCU, a historically Black college and university. And I was thrilled. I said, "Oh, I didn't realize Kelly went to Claflin." I said, "Hmm." So
Yes,
we'll have to talk
ma'am.
about that a little bit. And also, I just want to welcome all of our guests, our listeners. If you have a comment, please put it in the chat because we want you to join in this conversation. We want it to be more than just a dialogue. We want it to be a conversation and we want it to be a learning experience for everyone. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit about your years in college. You went on to major in, was it sports?
Public relations and
Public
architecture.
relations first,
Mhm.
yes.
Yep. So college was again another interesting experience. I went into college initially looking to major in broadcast journalism, and I spent my first year as a broadcast journalism major. Um,
Okay.
had a ball, learned a lot, but also quickly discovered that I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I would
Mm.
rather be behind it and helping other people put their best foot forward. And so I switched my major to PR. I ended up gaining a really awesome mentor in one of our PR faculty. Her name was Yolanda McCutcheon, is Yolanda McCutcheon. And she's still a really, really good friend of mine to this day. And I kind of credit her with helping me decide to change my major to PR. I don't know that she knows that actually. So if you're watching now, you do. But that was another tough decision that I had to make, and it took a lot of exploration and learning to really identify, what are the different career paths that you can take with broadcast journalism
Mhm.
versus public relations, and what is my ultimate goal? Which one of these majors is going to help me get there? And
Right.
so at that time, it was to work in sports media relations, and to help athletes put their best foot forward. And so that's where PR became my choice. That's why PR became my choice.
Okay. I love what you said about, the amount of time and that you had to think about what you wanted to do and why you wanted to do it. Right now, all of our seniors who are working on their common applications or whatever application platform they're using are really, some of them are really struggling with what do I want to be when I grow up? And we're really trying to help them understand that they don't have to make a final decision
Yeah.
now, that it is okay to explore. It is okay to find out what else interests you. I mean, they haven't had a lot of life experiences. And I keep saying no one expects you to know what you want to do for the rest of your life as a 17 or 18-year-old. So again, you talking about how once you did start doing what you thought you wanted to do, you realize, no, this isn't it. This isn't it at all. This
Absolutely.
isn't it.
And I mean, if you look at my career path now, it's
Hmm.
even leap years different from what I thought I was going to be doing when I changed my major. And so, like you, I'm always telling my students at this point, quite frankly, it doesn't matter what you major in, do something that interests you, study
Hmm.
something that um, makes you or keeps you awake at night as something that is interesting and even maybe mysterious to you, because it's not going to matter what you major in the long run. The goal is to get as much information and education as you can.
Yeah. And
So
I talk to students a lot about transferable skills, that's
mhm.
not something that is part of their normal conversation. So I
Mhm.
always tell them, I said, so if you do change your major or if you do start working in a different field, that education that you received wasn't in vain. You still learned something,
Right,
even if it's what you learned about yourself. You know, you just said you learned that you did not want to be in front of the camera.
right.
You know, that's an important lesson to learn. So again, helping students get through this. I just want to welcome Miss Jackson for joining us. I appreciate that. So thank you so much, Miss Jackson. And if you want to join in the conversation, please do so. And that is open to anyone else who is watching this live and anybody that's watching it on the replay. So, so while you were a student in college,
Mhm.
did you have the opportunity to have internships in your field?
I did actually. I didn't pursue an official internship until the
Okay.
summer between my junior and senior year.
Okay.
Um, but I did have the opportunity to have internships. And I also took the opportunity to take jobs on campus or around different areas that I was interested on campus.
Mhm.
So, for example, my freshman year, I was the men's basketball manager because, again, I was very interested in sports and sports media relations. So, I wanted to be behind the scenes and see what was going on there. I also took the opportunity to become a sports marketing intern across the fence at South Carolina State my junior and senior years.
Okay.
Um, and I also took a tournament internship for the SIAC Southern Interscholastic Athletic Conference basketball tournament
Mhm.
as a social media intern one of my years. I don't remember if it was my sophomore or junior year. But yes, between my junior and senior year, I was a social media intern for the Amateur Athletic Union, which was a really, really
Okay.
cool experience. So
Okay.
definitely.
What was cool about that experience?
I got to learn a lot. A
Okay.
lot. I worked with a lot of different sports that summer, sports that I had never
Mhm.
even considered. Most people, when they say they want to work in sports, they consider the big four, basically
Right.
basketball, football, baseball, and soccer, maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe hockey. They don't consider volleyball. They don't consider diving or martial arts or
Okay.
rhythmic gymnastics. And those were all things that I got to work with at AAU that really expanded my thought process as to what it's like working in sports and sports media relations. There's so much more out there than just those
Mhm.
big four, you know?
Yeah. You just hit on a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I'm always talking to students about career exploration. I said, unless you get out there and explore, you don't know what's out there for you. You don't know what you would like. Um, I think about back in the day, you know, when I was in school, which was a long time ago. You didn't really have that opportunity to really do a lot of career exploration because it was probably a little easier um, to maybe decide on a career if you were going to college. Like I knew I wanted to be a teacher from the time I was in seventh grade.
Mhm.
So that was my path, you know, whatever I needed to do in order to get a degree in education so I could become a teacher and then become a school counselor. Um, Nowadays, I don't know if it's because our students aren't out and about as much. I mean, we were out in the streets playing, you know, till the street lights came on and hanging out. And so many of our kids, I don't know if they're over programmed or if they're just not comfortable exploring all the different options that are available to them. So, what kind of advice would you give to students who are a little reluctant to explore?
Um, if you're reluctant to explore now, I say that's okay. Take your time because it doesn't matter when you decide to explore, choosing to explore is the thing to do. It's a good thing. Whether it's now or whether it's 5 years down the road from now, like you mentioned earlier, transferable skills. Whatever you're studying now or doing now is never going to be in vain. You're always going to be able to use the things that you learned towards wherever you go in life. So whether you explore now or in 5
Mhm.
years, it's really okay. Um, If you are reluctant to exploring now, I always recommend go find somebody that you trust and have a conversation with them. See what their journey was, learn about their experience, and know that it's okay to change your mind. I
Yes.
changed my mind in my career path multiple times. If you look at my resume, it's a little bit all over the place, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So, I think that exploring is a good thing. And I think that a lot of our kids now are overstimulated, maybe.
Mhm.
They have access to a whole lot more than we ever
Yes.
did with the
Mhm.
internet and with social media. And, even with my generation, we didn't grow up really and truly with social media as
Mhm.
kids. It came as we were entering high school and college, depending on where in the millennial generation you fall. And so we didn't have to deal with that
Right.
like they do now. And there's so many different things out there. And I think that a lot of times they get overwhelmed and shut down. And
That
that's
is
why
true.
they're afraid to explore. They
Yeah.
just shut it down, you know?
Yeah. Plus, back in my day, getting a job was almost expected of you. You
Mhm,
went, if you wanted anything extra that your parents weren't going to pay for, then you needed to get a job so
mhm,
that you could pay for it. So I'm always talking to students about the value of work. I said it's more than just getting that extra money to get something that you want, but it's also looking at the skills that you learn in working in another environment. You're learning how to collaborate with people. You're learning time management. You're learning how to follow directions from somebody other than your parents.
mhm.
You're learning responsibility. I mean, could go on and on. One of the things I love to do when I talk with my students who do have jobs is we always spend some time talking about, so what did you learn at your job this week? What happened on your job this week where either you learned a new skill or you were able to put into place something that you had learned previously? And where do you think you might be using that in college or in your future career? So it's really getting them to understand that everything that they're learning now, regardless of what type of job you have, is going to be valuable for you somewhere down the road.
Absolutely. And on that same topic, not a job, but student organizations. If you're involved in an organization on an executive
Mhm.
board or even in a volunteer position, that stuff that you're learning, the things that you're doing there are
Mhm.
absolutely valuable going into any working experience. And you want to do just what you said. What did you learn this week? What types of things did you do with your organization this week? Where might you use that in a job later down the road? So that they can start identifying, like you said, those transferable skills sooner than later.
Mm. And it's funny because I know in the North Carolina Career Development Association, I sit on the board, and we were having a conversation about um, what people call soft skills.
Mhm.
Being creative, problem solving, and actually in North Carolina, the language has been changed by the Department of Public Instruction, and they're now called durable skills
Interesting.
because they're not going away. And this is something that we're seeing in legislation throughout the United States, because employers will tell us, well, we can teach you how to do the job, but we
Mhm.
can't teach you how to be a good teammate. We can't teach you how to be a great problem solver.
Yeah,
We cannot teach you how to be creative. You have to come to us having already practiced those type of skills. If you can come to us and show those type of skills, then we can show you how to do the work.
absolutely. I like that durable skills. That's a different one. I haven't
Mhm.
heard that. I like to call them power skills because there's absolutely nothing soft about
Mm,
being an excellent communicator or a problem solver or a good
right.
teammate or being efficient with time management.
Mhm.
There's nothing soft about that at all. And like you said, it's not going away. And it's actually
Exactly.
more valuable than the technical skills going forward. If we're looking at the trends, it's employers are valuing those power skills over the technical skills every day because like you
Yeah.
said, they can teach you the technical, they can't teach you those power skills.
That is so true. So parents that are watching, help your young folks out there practice those skills and let them get jobs. They need to get out and work. My very first job, um, other than babysitting, but my very first job outside of babysitting, and people have heard this before, was working in a jewelry factory. I'm from Rhode Island, in Providence, Rhode
Mm,
Island. At one point, years ago, was the costume jewelry capital of the United States. So you had jewelry companies like Monet and Spidel and Coro that had headquarters there. So there were tons of factories. We had a lot of factories back then. So my job was as a foot press operator, and I was to take the two pieces of clip-on earrings, insert them into this machine, and then press that little foot pedal to clamp them together. And that's all you did. My job, it was from 3 to 7, Monday through Thursday. That job convinced me that if I wasn't going to college before, I was definitely going then, because there was no way I wanted to be doing that type of factory work for the rest of my life. So again, it showed me what I did not want to do. But it
mhm.
also, I remember one time the supervisor came by and he complimented me on the amount of work I did, you know. And I said, okay, so even though I don't like it, it doesn't mean that I have to do it poorly.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
get it to that next step. You get it to that next step. So Kelly, you went from, then you went on and you got another degree. So tell us about why you chose to get that particular master's degree.
So, like I mentioned earlier, my goal at that point in life was to work in sports media relations. And so, in all of my exploration and my studying and my 21-year-old mind,
Mhm.
I believe that the best path to do that was to go ahead and get a degree in sports administration or sports management. Um, so, I chose to go to the University of Miami, and I received a Master's of Science in Education and Sports Administration from there, which taught me a lot as well. Again, expanded my horizons as to what type of work, what type of industries, where I could work with
Mhm.
this degree. It's not just the big four. While I was in grad school, I was a grad assistant for a race production company. So those
Oh.
5Ks and half marathons that you see,
Mhm.
that's big business. And it's intense. There's a lot that goes into that. And that
Okay.
falls under sports management. And so that's what I did when I was in grad school. And it was very interesting. Learned a lot there too.
Okay.
So
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because again, when you talk about sports, everybody thinks about the traditional sports. But
mhm,
when you think about the wide range of sports that are available, I mean, we learned some of that by looking at this past Olympics, and
right.
even that didn't touch on everything. So
Absolutely.
I think it's so, a lot of students are talking about wanting to get into sports management, and I don't think they always understand how wide the variety of positions that are out there for this particular, you just talked about, doing 5K races, putting the events together, putting the race events together. I don't think kids think of that. So hearing someone say that this is part of that work, I think it is great for them, because they also need to become aware of what's out
Absolutely.
there. They need to work on how they're going to develop themselves in a career. So that's one of the reasons why I love speaking to people in different careers, because then it helps people say, "Oh, I never thought about it that way."
Absolutely.
Or, maybe that's something I should look into a little bit. So we also noticed that you also have certifications in a couple of things, that you're certified in a couple of things. So talk to me about that whole thing about lifelong learning. So you have a bachelor's degree, you have a master's degree, but yet and still you're still learning. So tell us a little bit about that.
I believe that if you're not learning, you're kind of dying. That might seem a little bit extreme, but you should be learning if you want to continue to have a full life, basically. So
Mhm.
I try to improve my skills or learn something new. Um, at least once a year, I'm taking a class or reading a book or watching a video, even if it's a YouTube or a TikTok video, which I
Mhm.
know this generation is very fond of.
Yes.
I learned so much watching TikTok. I've learned all kinds of tricks and hacks and so I encourage people to learn for life, honestly. The two certificates or the two certifications that we have that are posted here, I pursued both of those specifically for my career,
Okay.
because what I have decided is that at this stage, I am not interested in going back to get a third degree,
Mhm.
but a certification to help solidify the skills in that particular skill area or skill set is just as valuable, sometimes even more valuable than getting a whole nother degree, because certifications are usually more focused on practice and application,
Yes.
whereas degrees a lot of times are focused on theory and don't spend
Mhm.
enough time focusing on the application. And so I've gotten these two particular certifications, certified career services provider and certified personal branding strategist, because they help directly with what I'm doing every day in my full-time job. And they were able to get me there faster than going back to school for another degree.
Yes. And we are seeing that, folks. We are seeing more and more colleges, in addition to offering the bachelor's or the master's, we're starting to see more certificate programs.
Mhm.
um, where and we're starting to see major corporations like Google and Microsoft and other corporations offering these certificates. So again, that's something to think about. It's something to look into. I am a huge proponent of college because I believe college is
See?
transformative. I know it transformed my life. But again, this is talking about lifelong learning. And this may even be a way for you to figure out, is this really what I want to do? Let me go to school and get the certificate first. Do I
Yeah,
want to learn more about this or do I want to go in another direction, especially if you're really undecided?
yeah,
But then again, even if you do have your bachelor's, your master's, or what have you, it's cost effective. You're instead of, like Kelly said, instead of going and getting a third degree, go and get a certificate. I mean, there are so many programs out there. I mean, I'm amazed when I go and I'm looking on a website and I see what's available out there for folks.
yeah, definitely. And micro credentials are a big thing too, especially now. That's definitely something trending upward. Micro
Mhm.
credentials are even shorter, sweeter, bite-sized pieces of information that are becoming available more and more readily available now if you are just trying to figure out if this is something you're interested in.
Right.
It's a great
Right.
way to go.
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to switch up a little bit, Kelly. So tell us about the work that you do
Mhm.
with students at the University of South Carolina.
Absolutely. So currently, I serve as the career services manager in the College of Information and Communications at USC. Our College of Information and Communications serves 8 different major areas. So if I have to list them all off, it's advertising, broadcast journalism, multimedia journalism, mass communications, public relations, visual communications, sports media, and information science. And so it's a very wide variety of different majors and
Mhm.
pathways that students can take. And what I do is I support our students in their finding clarity around the pathways that they want to take or their exploration. So doing their research to figure out what can I do with this major and what might be
Mhm.
a good fit according to my personality and the things that I like and the things that I'm good at. I also bring in employers for our students to network and engage with. We put on career fairs. I also help them with finding internships, finding jobs, networking, resumes, cover letters,
Mm.
the whole gamut,
The whole thing.
basically.
Yes.
Just about everything. And so I like to say that my job is to prepare our students for life after college, whatever that may be. Like you mentioned
I
earlier,
love that.
that's a job, whether that's going into grad school or if it's going into the military or taking a year off to explore the world, whatever that life may
Mhm.
look like after college, My goal is to help you get there and make that decision of sound mind and be confident and comfortable with your decision.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Unfortunately, I was one of those college students that I did not visit the career services like I should have when I was in college because I knew I was going to be a teacher. So I
Mm,
said, okay, why do I need to go over there? And because I know what I'm going to do, but not everybody does. And I think, and again, I said I think it's so important that students engage with career services as soon as they step foot on a campus. I mean,
absolutely.
do not wait. And what I love is that you work for a specific program, a specific department. So
Mhm.
it's not like we're the career services and oh, if you walk in, you get whoever's there. That's your expertise.
Yes, ma'am.
So I love the fact that South Carolina has that.
Absolutely. And just a little secret, I, like you, did not engage with career services on Claflin's campus. But again, to be fair, I grew up with my own in-house career
For
services.
services.
So between my mother and all of her colleagues, I had everything that I needed at my fingertips, so I didn't
Hmm.
quite use Claflin, but I do see the value in it, and I encourage everybody to do it now.
Right.
Having lived what I've lived, the life that I've lived, and had the experiences that I've had, I do encourage students to please take advantage of your career services department. We are here for you to
Hmm.
support you. And that's really all we're here for, is to support you. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So, in talking about the different things that you help them with, you talked about internships. Can you
Mhm.
just talk a little bit about the value of internships and why, you know, in my estimation, I think they're pretty important.
Absolutely. I think that, so I actually had a student come to me today and ask me about how soon did I think that he could start applying for internships. He's a freshman, an incoming freshman whose first day of college classes is tomorrow, and he's already thinking about internships. And I applauded him for that, because I don't think it's ever too early to start thinking about internships.
Hmm.
Now, I do understand that some companies do require you to obtain academic credit, but there's so many different ways that you can intern. You can do micro internships, you can do job shadowing, but
Hmm.
the benefit or the value of internships and doing more than one is really identifying not just if you like something, but also if you don't like something.
Yes.
It's absolutely okay to do an internship in a path or in a field that you thought you were going to absolutely love, only to discover you don't like it at all. That's okay.
Hmm.
That is
Yes.
absolutely okay. And the more internships you do, the more opportunity you have to weed out what you do like and what you don't like.
Yeah, that is so important. You know, as I remember talking to one of my son's friends who had gone into finance
Mm,
and ended up working in a bank. You know, he did great in college, did great in his master's program, but was so unhappy sitting
mhm.
behind the desk in you know, a banking institution. It was not what he wanted to do, and part of what happened is that the money was good,
Yeah.
but he wasn't happy doing the
Mhm.
work. So he eventually moved around, still doing the same line of work, but in a different environment. Another student had gone to school again to work in finance and accounting and what have you, and always had a passion for acting
Mm,
and ended up, but he planned this. You know, he didn't just say, oh, that's it. I'm not doing this job anymore. I'm going to become an actor. He planned it for a couple of years and made sure he put money aside and what have you, and became an actor. And he's now in plays off Broadway, producing plays, writing plays, acting in plays, and just really happy with what he's doing and the turn that his life has taken. So, so again, between getting a chance to explore, which internships help you do. I love what you said about how they help you also figure out what you don't want to do. You know, we all need that opportunity to figure
mhm.
out what it is that we don't want to do because sometimes you look at a career, you look at a job and you say, you have this preconceived notion of what the work is, and then you
Mhm.
get in there and do it. I love I
Yeah.
love when people will say to me, "Oh, you're a teacher? Oh, you have summers off and it's so easy. You just," I'm like, "Well, you come here and
Come
spend a
on,
couple of
teach.
days in my shoes." And
Right.
our day doesn't end at the end of the school day. I mean, we're correcting papers, we're creating lesson plans, we're doing all kinds of things. It's not a job that ends when you leave the school building. So
Exactly.
again, getting people to understand the
Mhm.
value of exploration and internships and student teaching and all those other great things.
And I'll just also say this, I think it's just as important, if not more important, to figure out what you don't want to do.
Mm,
So
yeah,
I think that is probably of an even higher benefit.
right. Because some people know they don't want to be inside working in an
Yeah.
office, that they need to be outside in nature doing some kind of work. Some people know that they don't want to do anything where they may have to deal with technology, even though today that's really difficult to do. Um, but again, somebody might say, yeah, I don't like heights. So I don't want to be in any kind of job or career where I've got to go up high. Like, I don't want to be that person going up there fixing the lines after a storm or
Absolutely.
what have you. So again, I really do like that idea of thinking about what it is that just doesn't jive with your personality, doesn't align with your personality. I used to always laugh when I was, a teacher in the classroom, and there would be some teachers who would, make comments about working with kids, and I was like, so why are you here in the classroom if you don't like kids? Like, I don't understand that. Didn't you get the memo that if you're teaching that you're going to be with kids? So again, it's always interesting just to hear people's career journeys, how they got to where they are today, and also where they may be thinking about going, in the future. For those of you that are out there listening, if you want to, please share your stories with us. We'd love to hear about what's going on with you. Um, and if you have any questions, please ask your questions. So we have a great comment here. Thank you so much about, exploration and a supportive network, a clutch. Yes, they are. You talked a little bit about having that teacher for a mentor. Talk a little
Mhm.
bit about the importance of mentoring.
Oh man, mentors are honestly make or break. And I don't know that a lot of people really understand or even believe that. Um, Having a good mentor is the difference between excelling in a career or finding the right career path versus doing something that somebody just said, oh, you should do this because it makes good money,
Mhm.
or oh, you should do this because you'd be good at it. Mentors can help you just like career services professionals can. They can help you with introspection. They can help you with connections and networking and understanding the ins and outs, the day to day of the
Mhm.
jobs or of the industries that you're interested in. They are also cheerleaders for you. They're support systems. They're just they're great to have, absolutely amazing to have. And if this statistic that I just found out doesn't say that mentors are important, I don't know what else will. Um, the top Fortune 50 companies, all of the top Fortune 50 companies have mentorship programs.
Wow, that's great.
100% of Fortune 50 companies have mentorship programs. 94 or 96% of Fortune 100s,
Mhm.
80, I want to say 88 or 89% of Fortune 250s, and about 84% of Fortune 500 companies have mentorship programs because it's so important and so valuable. So if these are the top companies in the world
Mhm.
that are investing in mentorship, what does that say?
Exactly, exactly. And mentorship, I mean, I think of the people who were my formal mentors or informal mentors throughout my
Mhm.
whole career. And even today, there are people that if I'm working on something and I'm like, oof, I don't know about this. who can I call that's
Mhm.
going to help guide me through this? I mean, I don't think you're ever in your career so long that you don't benefit from having somebody as a mentor, somebody that you can,
Absolutely.
you know, share ideas with to see whether or not the idea that you have is even something that's viable, and
Absolutely.
just to talk,
Yeah.
it's difficult. Sometimes, working can be a chore.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. And I love the idea, I love what you said about all of those companies that have mentoring programs. We're fortunate with the organization that I belong to, the Independent Educational Consultants Association, that we do have a mentoring program. It used to be more informal years ago, but we were really working on standardizing what that looks like to make sure that people have a good experience with mentoring. Because, sometimes, people who are coming to my profession are often changing careers, and
Mhm.
they may know one aspect of the profession, but they don't know another. So it's so nice to have somebody that you can reach out to with the questions that you have, because they've gone through it already.
Right. Absolutely. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Definitely.
So the students that you work with, are you mostly working with students who are juniors or seniors, or are you having them come in at all levels?
I actually have them come in at all levels. So one of the things that I did last year that really worked well for us was I went and visited classrooms of all different levels.
Mm,
So from the first year experience classrooms or the intro, the principals classes, all the way up to the senior capstone classes, even to some of our grad level classes, our grad and PhD classes. I went and spoke to the classes on different topics, whether it be LinkedIn and networking or updating your resume or just an overview of what career services is and the services that we provide. I found that all of the students were more apt to come and sit down with me for a one-on-one or attend a career fair or an employer visit after I visited their classrooms and they really
mm.
learned, hey, this office is here and they're doing some cool stuff to support us. Like maybe I should actually go check that out.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm working with them from freshman all the way up to PhD level actually.
I love that. I love the fact that you were proactive and got out there to introduce the services to them and introduce yourself to them. Because again, it's all the work that we do in education is all about building relationships, and that's what you did. You went out and you created this relational environment so that they felt comfortable now coming into you. Whereas before they might say, well, I don't want to go in career services because I don't really know anybody, or I don't know what questions to ask, or why would I even want to go in there as an incoming first year student? But having you come in and speak to them is
Mhm.
something that said, oh, okay, that's a little nudge. And sometimes we need nudges
Yeah,
to push us in the right direction.
absolutely. Definitely.
So I love hearing that you did that. So Kelly, one of the things I always ask my guests, um, is to think about a book
Mhm.
that they either are reading, have read, or just want to share with the audience. So, what book are you going to share with us today?
I am going to share the book called Callings Finding and Following an Authentic Life by Greg Lavoie. I actually just started reading this book, although I've had it on my bookshelf for a little while now. I heard Greg speak at a conference in San Diego 2 years ago and just really, really enjoyed what he had to say about callings and finding purpose and being authentic in who
Mm,
you are and the work that you're doing, and the reason it's necessary to align your authentic purpose with the work that you're doing in order to be successful and live a fulfilling life. So I'm actually really excited to be reading this now.
okay.
I actually borrowed it from my mother, so I kind of need to learn how to read it so I can give it back. That's the book that's on my docket right now.
It must be so cool having a mom in the family, as who's your
It is.
career person.
It is. She's also my best friend at this point,
Oh,
so I
that's great.
love that I'm just able to call her and bounce ideas off of her, or most
Yes.
of the work that I'm doing, I usually call her for second and third opinions.
That is that is so cool. That is so cool. And we have some little hearts here for you from one of our listeners who is enjoying the conversation. Thank you so much for fun size giant lady. Thank you so much for joining in. Yeah, because I mean, this is important work. I mean, for me, it's about helping students find out who their possible selves are.
Mhm.
They don't know who they are. A lot of times, the way our public schools are structured and some of our private schools, students don't have the opportunity to do a lot of self-reflection.
Wow, they
They
don't.
don't have the opportunity to have different adventures or do different things that allows them to see different parts of the world or different parts of their community. Sometimes parents will say to me, well, my child's only in elementary and middle school, so we're not doing college talks just yet. What kind of things can I do for the future? I said, well, first, you kind of want to create that college going culture in your home. So every community has museums. Sometimes the museums are free, or there are certain days they're free. What I really stress for folks, go to your neighborhood public library. I am a lover of libraries. I'm a library nerd. I'm proud of being a library nerd. And I just tell people, go to your library, link up with the librarian if you're having difficulties figuring out what your child should be reading. I don't think anyone in the United States should be walking around here without a library card. Everybody should have a library card and they should be using it. They definitely should be using it. Um, so we have another comment here, and I love bringing our folks in. Yeah, sow the seeds now for your kids and not have them flounder like they did in college. I know that is, and it's because if you're not having those conversations,
Mhm.
they have this romanticized idea of what
Mhm.
college is about. College is hard.
Yeah.
I told my students, I said, I was first generation college student. So, no one in my family had gone to college prior to me. Um, so I got into college, but I didn't know how to do college.
Yeah.
I didn't
I've
know how
seen
to
a
do
lot.
college. So it was, and the people who were ahead of me that had gone to my high school, they were still trying to figure out how to do college. And I remember when I was applying for my first teaching job, and you had to have your transcripts and all your documentation with you. One of the questions that I was asked, they said, so we're looking at your transcripts here. There's a big difference between your first 2 years and your last 2 years in college. What happened? I said, well, I figured out how to do college, and I
Mhm.
knew that if I went home without a college degree, I was going to be in big trouble. So those first 2 years, those grades were just enough to stay in. They were
Mhm.
just enough to stay in. But then it kicked into gear that my junior and senior year. I was doing more in the realm of teaching and creating lesson plans and what have you. So I was in my happy place. So
Yeah.
but again, just making sure that we're exposing our kids to as much as we can.
Yeah.
Um, Fayetteville here has all these festivals, and I tell people, go take your kids to the festivals. They're free, so they can learn about other cultures, see how other people live, hear different music, different foods, have those conversations with them. But then you also have to model what that looks like,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to reading. I said, okay, everybody can't, necessarily afford going to Barnes and Nobles or going to a bookstore and buying books. That's why I say go to the library. But
Mhm.
also magazines, whatever they can read. When I was a kid, we was to fight over who was going to read the back of the cereal box because there was always a good story on the back of the
Yeah.
cereal box. So
Yeah.
again, you really have to do that. You
Yeah.
really have to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we have another great comment here. mentioning that loves the experiences her kids have at Adventist and Montessori schools. They're supported in their exploration and imagination. They
Mhm.
certainly are. They
Yeah,
certainly are. But for kids whose parents aren't able to send them to a Montessori school or a different type of school, you are their first teacher.
yeah,
You are
yeah.
their teacher. So
Mhm.
look to see what your community has to offer and take advantage of it. Make sure that you're increasing your kids' social capital so that when they do go on to college, they're not feeling like a fish out of water. That these are conversations they've had before. These are items that they know about. These are books that they have read or that have been discussed in their home. So do a family book club. You all read the same book.
Yeah. I,
Mhm.
along the same topic of, sowing the seeds and the experiences and you being their first teacher, I like to use this example or this story. And it may seem a little bit off topic, but when I
Mm.
was going into high school, the summer before I went to high school, my mom decided that it was time for me to learn how to do my own makeup. And she didn't want me to learn from other people and other kids and stuff. And so,
Mhm.
although she wasn't great at doing makeup, that wasn't her thing. She took me to the professionals. She exposed me to the professionals and made sure that I learned
Mhm.
how to do it the right way, learned how to match my foundation color, learned how to do everything so I didn't look like a clown and I wasn't learning off of YouTube because in
Mhm.
2009, YouTube was the place to be.
Yes.
And so, that's the parents or the mentors being their first exposure to that thing
Mhm.
or to those
Yeah.
things. It's taking them and giving them those opportunities that you may not have had, you know?
Exactly. When you said that, I was just thinking of a lesson that um, we did with our youngest son. So again, we were living in Rhode Island, and I realized that we were driving him everywhere. I mean, he
Mhm.
was at that time he was too young to drive, so of course, he didn't need to be behind the wheel. But we had a pretty decent bus system. But he had never taken the bus. He had no idea how to
Mhm.
do that. So again, here's one of those durable skills,
Mhm.
public transportation. So during their spring break, our spring break at school, I said, okay, this is one of the things you're going to do this week.
Yeah.
You like going to the mall. Now, to go to the mall in Rhode Island, to the one he was going to, it required taking one bus and then transferring to another.
Mhm.
And I said, this is what you're going to do. And we talked about it, what have you. And we didn't have cell phones back then. So I said,
Yeah.
when you got to a certain spot, you had to go to the payphone and you had to call me. So I knew that you got to, point one. Um, but then after a while though, he was always going to the mall now that he knew how to take the bus. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if maybe that wasn't a good lesson because it ended up costing me money.
Right.
Let's go to. But again, just looking at those skills that we
Mhm.
take for granted that our kids are all going to need when they go on to college, that
Mhm.
will serve them well when they go out in the work world. Because I always tell my kids, I said, I don't care if you're going to a 4-year school,
Mhm.
2-year school, if you're going to the military or whatever, you're all going to work
Yeah.
and you need to know how to work. And seeing as we spend so many of our waking hours working, let's at least do it in a field that we feel like we have purpose. I'm actually probably going to like grab that book. I'm going to go to the library and get that book because I love the idea of kids thinking about what their purpose is,
Yeah. That's
and what
another
your
good one
calling
is
is.
Purpose Driven Life is
Yes,
another really good book, Purpose
yes.
Driven Life. Mhm.
Yes, I did read that one by Rick Warren. Yes, that
Yeah.
is really good to read. And that's why, now I don't ask my kids, what do you want to major in? It's like, what kind of problems do you want to solve? What do you see
Ooh,
out there in the world that irks you or that concerns you or you would like it to be different?
mm,
So figure that out. And then we could start looking at how you can be supported by a variety of majors
yeah.
to make that particular career
Yeah.
and maybe solve that problem,
Yeah.
or
And
or
I like to
be
work backwards from what's the
yes.
goal or like you said, what's the problem you wanna solve or what
Mhm.
is it that you think you want to do, and let's work backwards from there.
Exactly, because there's so much out there and there's so many opportunities for students to learn.
Absolutely.
Kelly, this has been a wonderful conversation. I could talk career stuff till I'm blue in the face, because I just think it's so important. And I think so many people are, again, are so focused on the getting into college and finding that major and not really taking the time to explore what
Mhm.
works with their personality. What is it that um, will keep them engaged over a certain number of years, and even if they change careers. I mean, there's nothing wrong with changing careers, but again, how do you do that? What does that look like? Who do you talk to?
Mhm.
Do you hire a career coach? um, when people are talking to me, when young folks are talking to me and they've been out of school for 4 or 5 years and they're not quite sure if they've made the right career choice, I said, then go back to career services at your school. Many of the colleges offer lifelong career services, or they may offer career services for a nominal fee. It all depends. But go back there and start with the professionals first.
Yeah. And if you're not sure about going back to your school, most cities have a career one stop, which is
Yes.
a great, like, the most cities have a workforce development or workforce planning
Mhm.
career one stop. Go check that office out and talk to them, because they're usually very, very inexpensive, if not free, because they're
Yes.
provided by the city.
That is so, so true. So, folks, let me pull this up and see if I can find it. I've got so much stuff on this little screen that it's crazy. It's crazy. So, let me get rid of this. So, what I want to say to people, if you would like to stay in touch with Kelli, here is her contact information. You can connect with her on Instagram or on LinkedIn. So this is information for you because you want to keep this conversation going.
Mhm.
Um, if you have opportunities where you might want Kelli to come in and be a guest speaker,
Yeah.
because she is a dynamic presenter. I mean, I know I was drawn to her presentation, and everybody that was in that room, we just learned so much. So again, if you would like to keep in contact with her, um, please do. And another comment here. Yes. What kind of problems do you want to solve? I know. I love this question. I absolutely love it. And I was listening to one of my colleagues, and he was talking about that. And then when you look at the people doing designing for life and stuff, you really start thinking about that. And kids respond to that. Young folks respond
Mhm.
to that a little bit because they want to hear, okay, so I don't have to know what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I said, that's part of what college is for, is to kind of figure out what it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I also just feel like I believe that you can reinvent yourself as many times as you want to until you figure out the path that fits the best for you. There's
exactly.
absolutely nothing wrong with that.
There sure isn't. There sure isn't. Kelly, Carroll, thank you so much for being with us. We have someone here telling us about, this great job. Here's another kudos to you. This has been a great conversation. So folks that joined in, thank you so much for joining in and for sharing your comments. For those of you that are going to watch this on on the replay, we still welcome your comments because I do monitor the replay. Um, and just join in and make sure you're having those conversations either with your own kids, your siblings, your cousins, the kids next door. Sometimes some of my young friends, they like, oh Lord, here she comes again. She's going to start talking that stuff again. But again, we need to get our young folks where they need to be, because they're the ones that are going to be running the world. And
Absolutely.
we want to make sure that they're prepared and that they have all of those durable skills and the technical skills that they need in order to help us get to where we need to be. So
Absolutely.
again, remember folks, if you want to contact Kelli, here's her contact information. Please reach out to her. And Kelli, Carroll, again, I keep saying it. Just thank you so much for being here this evening. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Dr. B. I really do. Thank you for having me. This
Thank
has
you
been
so
great.
much. Yes. So folks, um, once a month at least, I will be bringing someone to talk to us about their career, how they moved through to their career, what their career journey was like. So just keep following me on my Facebook page, or it'll be on my YouTube channel or on my LinkedIn. and you can find out who I will be talking to next. So, again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And everyone, have a great evening. Kelly, you stay on.
Yes,
Take
ma'am.
care, everyone.
Thank you.